As we head towards the new year, we of course anticipate some change to come our way. And looking back at 2017, we certainly saw some big disruptions in markets, including marijuana stocks taking off and also Amazon moving into bricks and mortars by buying Whole Foods. For a look at what might disrupt the economy in 2018, we're heading to San Francisco, where Tracey Wilen is standing by. She's the author of the soon-to-be-released book, Digital Disruption: The Future of Work, Skills, Leadership, Education, and Careers in a Digital World. Tracey, good to be with you today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Quite a bit there in terms of all the potential disruption that may come our way. When you were putting this book together, what essentially stands out the most to you in terms of the biggest disruption we'll see in 2018?
Well, I think the biggest disruption is that society is already disrupted. We're using a lot of technologies. We've become reliant upon it. We text, we take selfies, we are Prime members, we use ride sharing, and so we're actually pushing other industries, our workplaces, and even ourselves to continually disrupt as we demand. We want things faster, we want to make sure there's inventory available to us, and so I think in ourselves, society is driving a lot of the change.
When you look at this, and I was going to get to this a little bit later, but let me ask you, what might be the darker side of this disruption that you're seeing in your research?
I think in anything that there are always going to be bad players. You know, whoever thought that someone would take like my grandmother's pressure cooker and turn it into a bomb. So I think there's always the downside of technology, but the downside of people. I think cybersecurity has become an imperative now and a high demand job just because of all the hacking. And we need ethical hackers now to be able to combat people who are just malicious. So I think that's the downside of every technology.
Let's go through some of your key areas that you think will be disrupted. And let me start with women as a disruptive leader. Why is that? And will it really be 2018?
I actually think so. I think, you know, women are organizations' killer app. And we always have heard about the pipeline, and there's not enough slots. And the pipeline is here, and women are educated, and in my research have modern-day leadership skills, characteristics for leading in a disruptive world. And now the slots are apparently, you know, opening up, and women are saying, yeah, I want to do that job, and I should be there. So I think we're going to see a lot of women not only emerge in the corporate world, but also women entrepreneurs. And I think that's a significant shift. We're seeing increasingly more and more women starting businesses, and then it helps bring in the new pipeline, the new generation of women to take over.
What are you seeing in terms of disruptive careers?
I say take a career selfie, which is look at your career because you're going to be living longer. Research is saying an adult today could live to 115. A baby born today could live to 150. And this is all because of the advancements in medicine and science. But that means we have to work for 60 or 70 years. And a lot of us haven't thought about our careers in that dimension before. We've always said, oh, maybe 30 years and I'll retire. But I could outlive a company, I could live out the management team, I could outlive an industry. So I have to take a career selfie, which is, okay, what do I want my career to look like in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, my 60s, 70, 80, 90, and 100, and make a timeline and goals to get there.
I've done 2 different careers or industries, and I thought that that was going to be, you know, enough, maybe a third, maybe a fourth, but when I saw your writing of 115 years, I'm like, my goodness, I got to do about 5 shifts here. So it's a lot.
It is a lot. In fact, they say young people today will probably do 8 to 10 shifts, career shifts, not job shifts. So it might be 5 years in one, 20 in another, 2 in another. But yes, you will have to expect, and that means continuous education and self-learning is critical for all of us.
Curious, what do you think the best way to become educated is today? There's a bit of a debate in terms of what works and what will work in the years to come, because right now there's so much focus on getting the right skills for a job versus almost some of the university education programs. What do you think?
Well, I think, you know, the basic skills do not go away. We need to have people who can think. You can read, you write, you understand how to communicate. But at the same time, you need to start thinking about this technology fluency because that is a reality of today. And we also have to make sure that I am an educator myself, that our students will enter the world and be productive in whatever they choose to do. So education needs to shift a little bit about how do I partner with the future of work, and how do I make sure that our students today are thinking, continuous learners, because
Right.
it's no longer one-stop shop, and also employable.
Well, and you talk about that in your book, Disruptive Skills. What do you think the disruptive skills will be in 2018?
Well, the big one, of course, is making sense of the data, right? So we live in a world where we're generating trillions of bits of structured and unstructured data, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it. You know, how do we watch the trends or the patterns? You know, like in a store, you know, what's selling or what's not selling, or where's the inventory? So this whole area of data scientists and being able to make sense of the data is a new demand. Another one is, I think, is novel and adaptive thinking. You know, how do we borrow a trend or a technology and resolve a problem that we're already solving incredibly well, even better? So a simple one, right, the ride sharing, the Ubers, the Lyfts, the Junos of the world, they basically have taken a mobile phone and an app and connected supply and demand, and have become very large transportation companies that actually don't even own cars. So they solve the problem of drivers who want to make money by giving people rides, with riders who don't want to take a taxi or don't have a transportation option, and putting it together using new technology. So novel and adaptive thinking.
Tracey, you're sitting in San Francisco. What are you seeing in terms of additional industries that will be using that same type of technology, almost you know, no need for an individual necessarily to have their own inventory? What are you seeing there?
Well, you can see it every day on eBay and Etsy. These e-marketplaces are just connecting supply and demand, from connecting farmers, you know, food to table, from connecting, you know, supplies from a different part of the world to someone who's looking for something. So I think it's no industry will be immune to that, and it will happen in the legal industry, in the insurance industry, in the banking industry, you know, in the real estate industry. You know, do I really need a realtor anymore when I can, you know, post my own home, give a virtual reality tour of it, use blockchain to do, hopefully in the future, all the transactions. So I think any industry can have, that's rote, has a middleman, could be simplified.
Interesting. Tracey, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with you. Coming up, more on the digital disruptors that could impact us in the new year. We are back with Tracey Wilen, author of the soon-to-be-released book, Digital Disruption, the Future of Work, Skills, Leadership, Education, and Careers in a Digital World. Tracey, we were just talking about some of the key areas that will be disrupted in 2018 and, of course, longer term as well. I just wanted to talk about a few more. You talk about disruptive leadership as well, and I suppose that comes down to more women being in leadership positions. Is that right? And if so, what else?
Well, what else is disruptive leadership is absolutely needed today, because if you think about it, a competitor can come out of anywhere. We call it, you live in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. It's like the life of being a first responder. And organization leaders say running a business today is like being under fire like a first responder. So we as a leader need to respond differently. If you think about it, if an Uber can come out of nowhere and take over in an industry, what else could be lurking out there? So we have to be much more aware. We also as leaders need to embrace our employees. In the past, the CEO or the leader executive teams would tell employees what to do, but we can't have that anymore. We need our employees to be much more entrepreneurial. So today, leaders need to focus on the employees, move them into positions of really calculated risk and opportunity at a sooner level, and be able to let them be much more entrepreneurial so that the job they have today is going to be different a year from now.
In the same line of thinking, you talk about disruptive diversity, including more diverse groups of people within a corporation, it sounds like.
Well, absolutely. Our customer base is now global. We sell our products, services everywhere in the world to all kinds of people. Companies do not hesitate to go out and crowdsource innovative ideas from their customer base. So now what they're looking at is, wait a minute, I have this incredible population who works for me at the company. I need to look at this diverse group inside my firm and really crowdsource internally ideas on how to really service our customers better, develop new products and processes.
Tracey, when I hear some of these areas of disruption in terms of women as disruptive leaders and disruptive diversity. These are things that people have talked about for a number of years and wanted and expected to see this change take place, and it's been very slow. Why do you think now might be the time?
Well, one is I think the pipeline is really here. When I look at statistics, women are out educating men. Women have much more opportunities today than they did in the past. I mean, engineering wasn't even a category or an opportunity for me, where younger women today are getting groomed at an earlier age. We have an entrepreneurial boot camp. So I think the pipeline is finally being present, and the slots are opening at the same time. But I'm still going to reflect on the entrepreneur side. In the past, I could never start a business on my own. I wouldn't have the resources, the ability. But thanks to the internet, I can. And that creates a whole new opportunity for people in general that they didn't have before because they were just working for a company or organization.
For some of those listening to our conversation today, you know, who maybe hadn't been thinking about the need to be aware of all the disruption that's going on and the need to have a number of shifts within their own personal career, what do you think is perhaps one of the best ways to protect oneself against technology and tech change?
Well, I always tell people, look at the industry that you're in and just learn 2 technologies that are relevant to you so it makes sense for you. So, for example, if you're in manufacturing, 3D printing and robotics. If you're in finance, look at blockchain, right, and cryptocurrencies. If you're in the media, you know, social media, digital marketing, streaming video, you know, technologies that you can use every day, get comfortable with, then you can start to really expand your technology fluency. And I say if you're not working in a company or an industry, then go to your local computer stores. You know, Apple and Microsoft often host a variety of classes that are free, one-on-one tutorials at a very modest sum, so that you can learn about technology and be comfortable with it so that you're using it more and more.
And for our viewers who also, of course, invest and like to invest, when they look at tech and when you look at tech for next year, what do you think is going to be some of the biggest areas of growth for tech investors?
Sure. So autonomous car, right, the whole autonomous vehicle, and everyone is coming out with an autonomous vehicle and an electric vehicle. Artificial intelligence is big, virtual reality and augmented virtual reality, the Internet of Things, which is really connecting things so that they can now talk to each other. So those are some of the bigger ones that everyone is talking about as being, you know, in our near and dear horizon.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Tracey, great to speak with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. You too.